This is the best moments of the BBQ Central Show in 10 minutes or less. Ever wish you could re-listen to your favorite interview or segment? Do you enjoy hearing older shows for the first time in years? Then the best moments of the BBQ Central Show in 10 minutes or less is just what you need. Thanks for listening and enjoy the show.
Welcome, one and all, to another edition of the best moments of the BBQ Central Show in 10 minutes or less. I'm your host, John Solberg, and this edition is being brought to you by The Butcher Shop. The Butcher Shop is home of the A9 Master Kobe briskets, where they are always hand-picked. This father and son team has operated this retail meat market in Pensacola, Florida for the past 15 years. Kevin and Jordan ship nationwide to the biggest names in barbecue. The A9 brisket won both sides of the American Royal Cook-Off, and that happened in 2019. They also ship some of the finest prime, dry-aged Australian Wagyu and Japanese Wagyu steaks to people just like you and me who aspire to be the kings of their backyards. The Butcher Shop always has Berkshire, Compart Duroc, Allegiance Duroc, and Prairie Fresh all-natural pork in stock, and again, it's always hand-picked just for you. Are you into wild game items? How about some bison, some venison, some camel, some ostrich, even elk? Have you been searching for those big 10 to 12 pound boneless turkey breasts featured on How to Barbecue Right? The Butcher Shop has them in stock and they are ready to ship to you today. So whether you're looking for the best competition briskets, ribs, or pork butts, or you just want to have a better option to cook at home, give the Butcher Shop a call today. 850-458-8782. 850-458-8782. You can also reach them on their Facebook page, Facebook.com/The Butcher Shop. Shop is spelled SHOPPE. Mention the Barbecue Central Show and you will save 10% off your entire order. And this is what's going on in today's show from July 29th, 2014. Greg catches up with Centralite Pitmaster, amazing cook, Sylvie Curry. Let's get right to it. Here's Greg and Sylvie from 7/29/2014.
Joining me now, as I just mentioned on the way into the segment, a loyal Centralite, a competition cook, the pitmaster of Lady of Q. Let's welcome first-timer to the show, Sylvie Curry, joining me here on the show. Sylvie, how are you?
I'm doing good, and you?
Doing absolutely fabulous, Sylvie. Appreciate you asking, and more importantly, thank you for making time tonight. I guess before we get into the regaling tales of taking Vista, California by storm this past weekend, maybe a little background about you for the people that aren't in the chat room every weekend, newcomers to this show. How did you get into competition barbecue? How were you introduced? And I guess what do you find so appealing about it?
Well, I was introduced in the competition barbecue by our good friend Neil Big Mr. Strother. A few years ago, back in 2006, I used to have a food blog, and he gave me a call one day and said, well, we want to form a competition barbecue team. You're interested? Keep in mind, I didn't even know him. And so I said, oh, okay. And, all I'd done is a little bit of backyard grilling, but not any real hardcore smoking, anything like that. So I said, what the heck? So we formed the team, and that was the days of 4Q. We had 3 guys and myself, and we started competing.
Are you a SoCal born and bred? Did you move out there like transplant or?
I'm born and bred in Los Angeles, California, and just recently moved 2 years ago to northern San Diego County.
So, as you're growing up and you've heard all of the, West Coast doesn't know barbecue over the years, and obviously that whole landscape has changed, especially over the last 3 or 4 years. But when you're putting that team together, how do you go about building flavor profiles and finding out what the best way to cook ribs and brisket chicken and pork are?
Well, when we first started out with 14 members, we assigned one meat to each person. Neil had brisket, I had the pork, Susie Sakai had ribs, and Luis Ramirez had the chicken. And we just all on our own developed our own way of cooking it, went out to a competition and at the Gene Autry Museum, which was, the promoter there was Ollie Bragg, and we cooked, and we didn't do very well, except we did get a 5th in ribs. And from there, everybody was hooked, and we just continued to cook. So, flavor profile over time, we changed a little bit, but as for Q, we were just sort of like hit or miss.
Did the team just go separate ways? Was there a lot of, let's say, competition where you wanted to see how you could do on your own? How does Pork-U blow up?
First off was Neil. He decided to go and form Big Mr. Barbecue. And so that just left the other two guys and myself. And in time, one of the other guys started having babies and a family, so that took away his time from being able to compete. And then Susie and I continued for another couple of years. And then he sort of backed off and had other family obligations, so I was on my own. And so I just started cooking myself and went solo from then. And 2011 was the last time I cooked as 4Q, and I changed my name to Lady of Q, 2012. And then on my own solo cook with just my husband as my pit bitch.
Yeah, well, bringing it strong tonight, Sylvie. Yeah, wow. Hopefully he's not listening. So I was just going to say, so you're a solo cook. I mean, is your husband there at every event, or is he just there when he's available?
He's there at probably 98% of the events. He's, my muscle. He helps lift and set up and break down. He's my taster, and he also runs my boxes. So he's there most of the time. If he's out of town or something like that, then, I'll get my daughter or someone else to help me.
So obviously you're the pit master. You're making all the calls on flavors and cook times and all this stuff. But a lot of people, and I'm going to be sexist just for a second, but especially the men here, they might do a barbecue event to kind of get away from the significant other, have a little me time. And you have your husband with you the majority of the time. Do things ever get contentious in camp, or it's kind of know your role and shut your mouth type of deal?
Right. No, you know your role, shut your mouth. And he's very good at it, and he knows when it's a real stressful period and to stay away from me. If I call him to come in and taste something, he comes in and does it, and he's good at it. So he doesn't try to force anything on me or anything like that. If a box is not looking good to him, he may point out something, and if I like his suggestion, I'll take it. If not, I go on and do what I want to do.
Now, when we look at this weekend's past event a little bit more intimately, anything out of the ordinary that you had to contend with or that you didn't account for? I mean, a lot of teams here, 60 teams is a big event, and a lot of good teams to boot. So how were you leading into the event?
Leading into the event, number one, I had karma.
Of course.
Granted.
It never doesn't work. I told you.
The barbecue radio show karma, so I knew it was going to be a good cook.
Right.
And so then it was one of those type of cooks who is scary good, because the only thing that I had a problem with was my chicken, and I just couldn't get it to get the color that I wanted on it. Everything else, the cook just went perfect. It was like, oh wow. And even into boxing things up, everything was perfect.
When we look at those individual results, as you said, you suffered a little bit with the chicken, 26, so still top half of the field. But you won pork. You got 8th place in ribs. You got 1st place brisket. So you win 2 categories. When you don't get a chicken call, maybe. Well, okay, I asked Jason the same thing. I'm going to ask you. If you don't get a chicken call, do you think you're hanging around the top 10, or do you just go right to the fact that maybe you're around 60th?
Well, for this particular event, because I knew my chicken wasn't that good, it didn't disturb me. And I knew that my brisket and my pork were right on, and actually my ribs I thought were right on also. So it didn't disturb me when I didn't get a call in chicken. And chicken's been one of those categories where I've suffered the last year. And I've got a lot of help from my good friend and Simply Marvelous, but I just can't get it together. So, go ahead.
No, please, go ahead.
So going into the cook, not getting the chicken call didn't faze me.
Have you cooked an event before where you've taken half of the category events in winning fashion?
No, very first time. I've gotten maybe a first in brisket, or I've got maybe a first in pork, but never combined together. This is the first time ever for me.
So when you win pork, you get the 8th in ribs, you win brisket, as they're starting to make the calls in an overall sense, do you think that you have this one in the bag, or were you worried about any other teams? Because I'm sure you're probably trying to keep track as best you can of some of the other teams.
Hey, would you like to hear how Sylvie finished this cook? Head on over to the bbqcentralshow.com. Link in the show notes going to take you to this complete episode from July 29th, 2014. Sylvie Curry, what a great cook. You can find Sylvie over on her YouTube channel, Lady of Q Competition Barbecue. While you're over there cruising around the internet, make sure you check out The Butcher Shop over on Facebook, facebook.com/The Butcher Shop. Shop is spelled SHOPPE. Mention the Barbecue Central Show when you give them a call, and you're going to save 10% off your entire order. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time on the Best Moments of the Barbecue Central Show in 10 minutes or less, I'm your host, John Solberg. I look forward to talking to you again soon.